Awesome. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our data analytics office hours. My name is Sophie, and I am the student advisor here at Springboard for the data analytics course. And I am joined here by my wonderful host, Erik. Erik, you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
That's pretty good.
Nice. It's good to see some more people on this week.
Yeah. We just started good. How are you? Someone just messaged in the chat box. Great. Yeah, we just started our orientation for the October 7th cohort today. So I mentioned our office hours for those folks as well. So we've got some new students in the room, which is awesome. So yeah, just to give sort of a general overview of office hours for those of you who are joining us for the first time. This is a general Q&A. As time goes on, we can suggest topics and eventually hopefully have capstone project presentations from students, have maybe guest speakers, etc. But for now, it is a general Q&A. So Erik here is here to answer any questions that are course related, industry related, etc. And what else? Yeah, if you have a question, feel free to either unmute yourself and you can ask the question out loud, or you can post the question in the chat box and we can answer from there. So yeah, that's about it. And yes, if you could mute yourself while anyone is talking, that would be great. That way we don't get the background noise. Let's see. Okay, awesome. So how's your week going, Erik?
It's going all right. I'm working my way through one of my computer programming assignments right now, and it is being difficult, but I'm getting there. Working on data visualization that's using D3, which is a web technology that's based on JavaScript, or is a JavaScript framework. And it's very difficult and frustrating to work with, but it's super powerful. And
Yeah.
I've done some interesting stuff with it, but definitely taken all week when I thought that it would be like a maybe 4 or 6 hour homework.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was the last time we talked, you were dealing with a challenging data set as well that you'd been working on all day. How did that turn out?
That actually ended up going all right. Yeah. That one, I was accessing an API and pulling back the results and building a graph out of those. And that ended up going all right. It was also very challenging and not something I had done before. So that's why it took a long time. But then everything kind of clicked all at once. And then I kind of flew through that rest of that assignment. So that was good.
I love it when that happens. That's fantastic. Have you gotten a chance to look at the updated or curriculum, the added sections of the curriculum?
No, I actually just noticed it earlier today. So I saw that they're up there now, but I haven't gotten a chance to look through them in detail yet.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I think it was published on Monday, so it's still relatively new. For those of you who are new to Springboard or starting the October cohort, this is a relatively new course, and so we, when we initially put out the course, we put out our course development team put out the first half of the curriculum first, and then they just published the second half as well. So some students have been kind of anxiously awaiting the second half of the curriculum, and so far have gotten some really great feedback. So yeah, I look forward to hearing what you think about it as well.
Yeah, I'm excited to take a closer look at it too.
Awesome. Let's see who we got here. Cool.
How's your week been, Sophie?
My week has been pretty good. I was in New York for a bit, working from New York, and now I'm back in the office, which always feels nice. We've moved our office to the top floor of our building. Have you been to our SF office before? No.
No, I haven't.
You should come by sometime. We have moved to the top floor as we're expanding as a company. So we have more space now, which is really nice. Yeah, it kind of feels like that, new exciting feeling when you move into a new place and, get all your things organized and unpacked and everything. So it's been a really fun transition time for Springboard. And then today was orientation day, which I see some familiar faces here. And I think that went quite well. So yeah, things have been busy. Orientation week and new cohorts are always busy, but really fun. Love meeting and hearing from new students. I'm curious, I want to reiterate to some of the students who are in orientation that you're welcome to, Erik and I are both here. If you have questions about the course, you're welcome to ask them. If you have questions about Springboard, you're welcome to ask them. This is sort of an open forum. I can, if you also have questions about Erik's experience, feel free to ask as well. It does not have to be this is a very general Q&A. So don't be shy. I see also here a student who messaged me earlier about a coupon. I hope you were able to figure it out and emailed support@springboard.com. Just wanted to call that out. Yes, that worked. Awesome. Glad to hear it. That's fantastic. So yeah, I think we will just open up the floor. Don't be shy. Ask whatever you want. Otherwise, Erik and I will just keep talking about our weeks.
I can vent about my homework some more.
Yes. Erik can vent about his homework. And I don't know what I'll vent about. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to make for dinner tonight. So we can discuss any of those topics. Let's see.
I can go, actually. So how does the Tableau licensing or other licensing works, actually? Is it is there any primer or documentation available for us to how to use those tools, or that's part of the course, actually?
Well, I can talk about using Tableau. I don't have any information about the licensing, but I know that you can get a 30-day free trial of Tableau Desktop, and I also know that they offer anyone who has a .edu email address a free year of the desktop license. But beyond that, I'm not really sure what Springboard helps out with. Sophie, do you know?
Yeah, we do give free access to Tableau while you're in the course. So you should have 6 months of access while you're working within the course timeline. Good question, though. I believe it's access to you have Tableau, Power BI, which I'm not too familiar with, Office 365, through our partnership with Microsoft, SQL, Tableau. I think that's it off the top of my head. Does that sound right, Erik?
Yeah, I mean, we'll be working with Python as well, but Python and SQL are free for everyone anyways.
Yes. Yeah, and then any tools that require credits or access, you'll get on your course start date on the 7th. So yeah, stay tuned for that. So I think some students tried to get access today. The system won't recognize your sort of login yet because the course hasn't fully opened. So Monday, we will have full access. It's a great question. Thank you, Bala, is it? Am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
Yes, awesome.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
So I have no technical background. I used to work as a financial analyst, and I'm trying to get a sense of, how easy or difficult is it to break into data analytics just through a boot camp program like this?
Yeah, as a financial analyst, how much did you work with Excel? Or just
a lot. I didn't use pivot tables and macros a lot. It was mostly just building cash flows, a lot of financial equations, if then kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, honestly, I think that it's very transferable. Once you can really wrap your mind around how you want to work with data, which I think Excel is a really great tool to introduce people to like that mindset or that like framework that you need to build. Once you have that, then the other tools are really just figuring out the syntax that you need to type in to make what you already can envision in your mind happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that just doing a boot camp like this one is really, really helpful because it gives you enough of a foundation that you can step into some of these other technologies and really make some good strides towards being able to be productive in them. And then, so it's like enough to get you in the door for sure. And then you'll be learning very quickly on the job whenever you get a role as an analyst. But this is definitely a huge step up above anyone who has never touched these technologies or needs to learn everything on the fly completely on their own. So yeah, I think it's a really great course, and all of the technologies that this course touches on are the exact technologies that I look for when I've hired analysts in the past. So they've done a great job of tailoring things to what the industry really wants.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Thanks, Eric. We have a question in the chat box. As a data analyst, how much time do you spend remote, and is that a possibility?
I am trying to make my whole career remote, so it's something that I haven't been able to completely swing yet. I'm still working on how to get that 100% remote option open, but I'd say that for most of the positions that I've been in, remote work is always on the table, mostly for like a day or two a week. Or if you want to take an extra long vacation and your manager's okay with it, then you can say like, I'll work a week remotely in wherever I'm going along with my vacation time. So I'd say that it's definitely possible to do some remote work, but a fully remote analyst position is still pretty rare. That being said, they do exist. I've seen postings for them, but not something that I've seen a ton of in the past for fully remote. So probably 10 to 25% remote is pretty standard.
Cool. Thanks. I've got another question here. Do we go through the scenarios to work with large-scale data, and what are the pitfalls working with gigabits of data?
In this course, you actually don't end up working with that large of scale of data because as a data analyst, you're generally working with data that's already been pre-processed by data engineers. So there should be a data engineering team at most companies, at least any company that's large enough to be working with data on that scale. And that team will be the ones that kind of wrangle the raw server logs and whatever else is generating the gigabytes of data. And then they pre-process it into a standard data warehouse or data lake that has some aggregation already performed so that the analyst can come in and work on the data in the tools that we cover in this course. So to me, big data kind of starts at around like 500 megabytes or so of size. Like that's way too big to work in a spreadsheet. It's pretty manageable in a database. But then when you start to get bigger and like 2 or 3 times bigger than that, then even databases start to get a little bit iffy to work in, or you have to be a lot more careful. So I would say that for most of the work that you do as a data analyst, you wouldn't really be worried about that anyways. But some of the technologies that we talk about here, like SQL, are able to handle data on that size. It's just, we don't really cover that in this course because it's a pretty edge case sort of thing for a data analyst to be working on something that big. Absolutely. That being said, if you want to get some exposure into those technologies, then that was my dog. Then I would suggest going into SQL pretty heavily, and then working on some of the technology platforms like Google BigQuery or Amazon Redshift, because those are the analytics engines that Amazon and Google have put together. I guess since we're a Microsoft partner here too, then they have Azure, which is, I believe, their analytics engine as well. And those are already configured to like handle truly big data. And you can write any kind of SQL into those systems, and they perform as well as anything that you would like, way better than anything that an in-house team could design, because they've just tuned those platforms to handle the size of data that you would expect to see in it, which is like huge databases and tables. What's the difference between data science and data analytics, and how easy is it to go from analytics to data science, or vice versa? I think that that's kind of a good and hard to answer question, because the line is pretty blurry. I would say that the line, like my definition of what a data analyst does versus what a data scientist does, is the volume of data that you are working with, because data scientists definitely work with those higher volumes of data, and also just the kind of mathematical rigor that you have to be a data scientist. There's a lot of work that you have to do to understand linear algebra and probability theory to be a good data scientist. That being said, you can find data scientist positions online that are really just data analyst positions, and if you want that title, you can definitely get it. It's just kind of the actual definition is pretty wishy-washy. And like I said, my definition of where like the split line is like data analysts can pretty much work on any data set on one computer. Like you could fit the whole data set onto one machine, but a data scientist needs to do some kind of distributed computing because the data sets that they work on are just too big to fit on one computer. So I think that that's probably the best place to draw a line, because there is just like a physical constraint that you pass, and that can be the demarcation from data analytics to data science. But even that definition is pretty wash. Like there's no solid line. It's pretty fuzzy. Yeah, absolutely. And then how easy is it to go from one to the other? I think that it's definitely possible to go from one to the other, and data analytics is the perfect introduction to get into data science. But there's a lot more work that you need to do on your own through boot camps or through self-teaching or through some kind of a master's program to get yourself up to that next level, because you're not going to learn the linear algebra or probability theory on the job to move from data analytics to data science. So they are transferable skills, and a lot of the things like getting the mindset right, is very transferable from analytics to data science. But it is like a separate tool set that you need to build up outside of work to move on to that next level.
Thank you, Eric. So I think I can take this next question. Can we bring the problems and issues that we have at day job to mentors and anyone else associated with the course, or is it a strict no-no? So I guess this would, in my opinion, and as someone who works at Springboard, I think it would depend on when you say problems and issues at day job, depending on what that means. So your mentor is primarily there to help you through the course, and so are your peers and community managers are there for the course content, and to give you perspective on what it's like to be an industry expert, etc. So if the problem or issue at work is something that you feel would contribute to your learning as a data analyst, if you already have some type of data analyst job and you feel that the issue is related to that work and you are curious about how your mentor might advise you to handle that, I would say yes, you can ask your mentor. It is a mentor-student relationship. Eric, you can also speak to this. Doesn't, of course, have to be like strictly course material only. You guys are welcome to talk about your lives and jobs, and have a nice relationship as well, outside of just the strict sort of what are you working on right now in the course. So that's not to say you can't tell your mentor, oh, I had a bad day at work. But when it comes to problems and issues at work, I would say try to stick to, if you're trying to really ask advice, things that involve data analyst specific topic.
Yeah. I've also mentored for the business analytics class, and I've had some students there who, when we've started to get into like the Tableau stuff, have had access to data sets at work that they wanted to build some kind of visualizations on. And so kind of as a supplement to the Springboard data and case study that we went through in that course, I would help people try and visualize whatever it was that they were working with at work, and whatever data sets they had access to there. So yeah, definitely. I think that as long as it's transferable and that it makes sense to cover as part of the course, then I would be happy to work with a mentee on some kind of work-related problem.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric.
Yeah. And I see one more question. How did I get my start in data analytics? Was I self-taught or boot camp or formal education? I would say that I am kind of a mix between formal education and self-taught. My degree was in economics, and I did a pretty math-heavy undergrad. So that would be the kind of formal education. I also did some computer science classes, kind of light computer science. So it's through the business school. It's weird. But I learned how to program in SQL a little bit there, and I got some introduction to Python through some of the math courses that I took. And then as I got further into my career, I actually ended up taking a tech support job straight out of undergrad, because I graduated in 2010 in the middle of the recession. So there weren't a ton of jobs to be had for new grads there. So I started at a software company doing tech support, and just tried to spin that experience more heavily into learning about the backend systems and taking the little bit of knowledge that I had gotten in my formal education and applying it to this job that wasn't really related, but that gave me enough exposure that I could learn the technologies a little bit better, and then move on to bigger and better things. So then after that first job, my next job was a data analyst job, and I was pretty woefully unprepared for it when I started, but I knew enough to get through the interview, and I knew enough to make my boss happy for the first couple months that I was there on the job. And then as I was getting some kind of low-level work done there, I was learning as fast as I could on the job how to be a better SQL programmer and how to build really cool Excel workbooks on how to program in Visual Basic. So yeah, I would say that's how I kind of got into it. And then now I am taking a break from work and doing a master's in computer science through Georgia Tech online. So that's where I am now.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Eric. I think that actually wraps up our time quite nicely. So thank you everyone for joining. We are here every week, Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So feel free to continue to join us. I hope you continue to join us. And for the new students, as you start to work through the curriculum, make sure you're writing down those questions so that if you don't have time to go over it with your mentor, you can bring those questions here and hopefully we can get them answered for you. So yeah, thanks so much. And thank you, Eric. And I will see you all next week.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, everyone. Those are great questions.